Welcome to the world's greatest minds, where the most successful, impactful, and creative game changers on the planet deliver their hardest-hitting advice in 30 minutes or less. Every guest is specifically handpicked, there's no paid placements allowed, and every conversation is completely authentic and entirely unscripted. Big ideas, raw conversations, and real impact. This is World's Greatest Minds, and the revolution of thought starts now. And welcome back to World's Greatest Minds. And today I have to tell you, we are going to deliver on the promise of our namesake to a degree that I think is pretty exciting. Joining me today is Sharran Srivatsaa, who's impossible to introduce. 2 separate billion-dollar companies, 4 exits, I think maybe a pseudo tennis pro if I got my research right. Stanford dropout, which he brags about on his LinkedIn profile, took over feels like operations at acquisitions.com, and what I would deem a modern day philosopher. If you go check out what he writes, he's got an extraordinary newsletter that he puts out called The Next Billion, which is about as bold as you can get. And really humble guy. We've had a great conversation already in the pre-roll. Sharran, thank you so much for being here, man. I appreciate you.
Kasim, thanks for having me. And I think people don't realize how hard it is to put stuff like this together. You got to make the time, you got to prep, and then you create this for the world, and you don't have to do this. So from one semi-creator to a pro creator in you, thank you for creating this creating the space for people to enjoy some time with you.
Well, it's so kind to say, man, to be honest, it's such a selfish endeavor because I get to talk to the smartest people in the world. I get to learn, and it feels like exactly that. It feels like maybe what schools was meant to be. It's like the pseudo-Socratic Areopagus. Like I sit on the top of the mountain and I get to talk to people like you that have done the stuff that you've done. What shocked me, and I'm going to start with a backhanded compliment, okay? I hope that's okay. Dude, it blew me away to find out how young you are. Because I read your resume first, and I've listened to you, but I haven't seen many pictures, so you obviously look very youthful. But I'm like, 2 separate billion-dollar companies, 4 exits, and you're 45 years old. How does that happen? Like, at what point in your life do you feel the trajectory went from, because, you started trying to figure it out is the way that you posit it. And at one point, not only did you hit your stride, but it feels like you've just been nothing but a hockey stick. Where in your mind was the inflection point for it?
A lot of people will say that the inflection point happens when something happened. And I would offer that the inflection point happened when someone happened. I was with my wife recently, and we were looking back at the last, 20 plus years. And I found that 95% of my net worth came from 7 relationships. So if you think about that, right? If the key to success, when a lot of people think, is you need to know these 3 skills or be in the right place at the right time and all of that. But then when you realize that 95% of my success that I can directly attribute to 7 relationships, and 7 relationships directly, is pretty amazing. And I remember this probably 10 years ago. It was 2015, and I was talking to my coach, and my coach said, can you come up with a framework? Can you come up with a belief system that you don't have proof for yet? Like, think about how crazy that is. Essentially, she's saying, normally we take beliefs from someone else, or we take beliefs from our own experience. We say, oh man, I did that real estate deal, and I can get burned in real estate. Or you get the money doesn't grow on trees belief from your parents or someone else. But she said, what is a belief that you can put in play that you can't prove yet? So I had to come up with this belief. And I came up with this belief that I called it the 10-10 forever rule. And my idea around this was, what 10 people can I invest in for the next 10 years so that I can have a forever relationship with them? And at that time, I only had one person of the 10. And the idea was, instead of investing in companies, instead of going to networking parties, instead of taking every call that I could, I would say these were my, over time, 10 startup companies, essentially the people and the relationships that I would invest in. And I look back, and those 7 I only have 7 people on that list right now. 7 of those people contributed to 95% of my net worth.
Was the contribution from those people obvious and linear? Like when you were looking back, could you see like, oh, this is how this is going to work? Or was it a surprise? Or I imagine it's a combination of that, but I'm curious if there's like a rules engine.
So great question. When there was no linear path forward at all. I had no future pacing of that thought process whatsoever. All I had was a commitment that I made to the relationship, saying, I'm going to invest in this person. I'm going to invest in this relationship. I'm going to try to do epic things with this person. I'm going to say yes to whatever they ask for. And I'm going to have a no scorecard rule. The no scorecard rule is the most important thing, which is, I'll give you a crazy story. I had a friend, he generally calls me once or twice a year. He calls me and he's like, hey, Sharran, I have this, can you help me with something? And so sure, he's a friend from like 10 plus years. So I spend 15, 20 minutes on the phone with him, share whatever ideas I have. And right after that call, Kasim, he says, "Oh, thank you so much. What can I do for you?" And I was like, "You just eternally spoiled the 20 minutes that just happened because you wanted to turn around and settle that karmic debt right then."
Yeah, let me wipe this slate clean. So
Right.
yeah,
And so I was like, "Hey, let me give here. You called, let me just give here and feel good that I gave here." And when you remove the scorecard, I think a lot of powerful things happen, and it's very hard to remove the scorecard. Now, a lot of people think the scorecard is a transaction. Most relationships start transactionally. And when I say they start transactionally, what I mean is you do what you say you're going to do, not the tit for tat. For example, if I said, "Hey, I made a commitment to being on the podcast. I show up on the podcast." You're like, "Okay." I reached out to Sharran. We came on the podcast. He came on the podcast. It was a great experience. We sent an email. He introduced me to this person. He said he was going to do. He said he would do whatever he was going to do. So you find the transactional early parts of a transactional relationship gives you transactional confidence that the person is going to do what they say they're going to do. And that builds good trust. And I call that being consistently consistent, right? The people that you can't actually work with are the folks that are inconsistently inconsistent. Like they sometimes don't respond to your emails, or they respond to only when they want something. They will leave your DMs unread because you asked them for something, but when they want something, they will actually respond and actually, kickstart the conversation with you. And the consistently inconsistent thing is really hard. So all that I came up with was, it is my responsibility to completely contribute to the relationships. And when you do that, the person on the other side, like, man, they start to do the same thing. And when you end up being on the other side of a no scorecard relationship, that's when insane things happen.
I love the no scorecard rule. I think that's brilliant. What's nice about that is there's a framing to it that would build a relationship that almost forces symbiosis. How do you choose the 10? Like, what's your buy box? When you're thinking about these 10 people, how did you make that decision? You have 7 out of 10 now, which is pretty cool. And I love that there's actually kind of like, in the back of your mind, I imagine you're sort of walking through life, hunting down the remaining 3. It's like who was it? It's Sam Jackson and the Avengers. You're building your team.
Yeah.
But how do you choose the 10? Is it just innate feeling, or do you think about it like more in this is how I'm building my team?
There are almost everything in my life is I try to build a framework or systems around it. However, I'd say this one, there's no framework or system for. And I think sometimes the most beautiful things, the most joyful things, the most impactful things will fall outside the rule of a framework or a system, because this is not something that you can evaluate in a buy box. And so I have a 4 goods rule. So I'll tell you about the 4 goods: good people, good intentions, good rationale, good contracts.
People, intentions, rationale, contracts.
So the people are, hey, this is transactional confidence. They said that you would come for the first call. They came prepared for the first call. It was joyful being on the first call. They said this, they did what they said they were going to do. Whatever was happened, they said they were going to, you got confidence in what they did. They're like, all right, these are good people. They at least did what they said they were going to do. Awesome. The second is, in the deeper relationship, you start to figure out the intentions. Hey, what do they want to do in life? What do they want to do in the world? Are they willing to give to me in a no scorecard rule? When I give something to them, do they go multiply that in some way? Like, it's hard to find out people's intentions. And it's like, when you figure that out, now it gets interesting, because then you can go to, so good people, good intentions. Now you have good rationale. Good rationale is, all right, now I want to do something bigger with Kasim. Hey, can we go do a partnership together? What does that look like? So there's some rationale around it, and so to me, a rationale is a spreadsheet. Hey, can we actually put some numbers to this? Because does it benefit you or benefit me in some way? I'd say in all 7 relationships, there has been a monetary transaction. I'll give you an example. 2 out of the 7 are Alex and Layla. And 7-ish years ago, when Alex and Layla was selling their first business, I helped Alex and Layla sell Gym Launch. And they wrote me a check to be their advisor to sell Gym Launch. And it was the only check that I did not want to take, because I was like, the first time I met Alex and Layla, I was like, these are my people. And it was so awesome. This was before the world knew Alex and Layla. And so my relationship with Alex and Layla started with me being their advisor. So every single one of my relationships happened where either I wrote the check or they wrote me a check, which was the strangest early commonality in all 7 relationships that you would have never thought it would happen.
What do you think that is? What is it about that? It's almost like that instant proof of concept that's like the necessary prerequisite to start that value flywheel.
I believe it's a symbol of seriousness, right?
Yeah.
As soon as you can put money down, you automatically say, everything that you're going to offer me is so much more valuable than this check that I'm going to write you. And this check that I'm going to write you is my symbol of seriousness into this relationship. And that's when I think people think that you write a check to receive value. I actually think it's significantly more than that. I think you write a check to show this symbol of seriousness, that the value that you're going to provide me, Kasim, is so much greater than this check that I'm going to write. And I think that is such a vote of confidence into the people that we write a check into.
Yeah, I love that framing. I was having a conversation with some people this morning, and we talked about the lack of trust in the present economic infrastructure. Like trust does not exist, and it's been so eroded, especially in a world where technology can manufacture anything. I can right now just prompt a bear breaking through my office window and attacking me, which is now what my Facebook feed is full of. And because of that, trust just became maybe the most important. I don't even know what to call it. It's like a repository of value. And so what I'm hearing from you is you're starting with trust, but you're starting with, and for better or worse, in our society, money's how we keep score. You're starting with trust by putting your chips on the table and saying, I'm in, or they did it with you. And then you're able to build from there.
So I'll give you a framework that could be interesting here. So I built this framework of relationships as a thinking process for myself. And think of it as a few levels. So the first level is, kind of people talking about the past. And you're like, hey, you and I are high school classmates and we meet, after many years, and then we're still reminiscing about the past. Well, that's the level 1 of relationships. Level 2 of relationships is when people talk about people. It's not good or bad. It may sound like gossip, but it's not. It's like, hey, did you see what X person did? Did you see what Y person did? You're
data.
the people. So it's a people-to-people conversation. The third level is when you talk about ideas. Those are good. The general masterminds are when people just talk about ideas, or when you go to conferences where you have no that much commitment, you talk about ideas. Social media started to fill that void in a lot of ways, where you just kind of talk about ideas, and you have these social media friends so that people talk about ideas. The fourth level is now when you're in a really great mastermind, like the ones that you run, where people talk about execution. So they're like, hey, I can take all of these and I can actually go do something with it, because now everybody around me is actually executing to get to the next level. But my fifth and most important level is when people can talk about money. As soon as you talk about money, you have stripped away every vulnerability that there is. Given that you and I both know Alex and Layla, Alex Hormozi and I go for a walk all the time. I wish people could go on the walk with us, because you'd be shocked at the conversations that we have. We'll be walking and we'll say, hey, the taco stand? I'm like, yeah. How much, what do you think they make? Really, all our conversations are all about every P&L for every company that we see. You're like, oh, that Chick-fil-A. Did you know that if this store sells this many burgers and they do this much stuff, they probably make $1.5 million. They're not actually working on Sunday, so they make more than Applebee's. Like literally all we talk about is money. Now you may think that's crazy, but what it does is it's given Alex and me a level 5 relationship on day 1.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So the relationship that I had with Alex and Layla, the interesting part about that is my first conversation was talking to them about selling their business, because I had helped multiple other influencers sell their businesses in the past. So I got referred to Alex and Layla to help them sell their business. And so my first conversation with Alex was like talking to them about money and selling their business, which completely gave me a level 5 relationship status with them, which made it so much deeper to have that conversation. So when I'm trying to like get a deeper relationship with somebody, I try to go as fast as possible to level 5. I just want to start talking about money right away, because it instantly drops all the other vulnerabilities.
So I love that. That's so brilliant. Some context. I built the #1 ranked Google Ads agency in the world. I sold it in October 2022. I had $100 million in ad spend under management. Humble brag, all that to say, the money piece was instant intimacy. Because if I'm spending money for you, I get to see everything. I get to see OV, LTV, retention. I know all your numbers. I know who's making money, who's not making money. Man, gosh, was it all walls were down. And the people that I was working with, I was really, and to the point that you're making, I never really thought about it this way, but the relationships really were overnight, they signed, and then we were bosom buddies. And a lot of those relationships have retained. I'm curious though, without the framing of like having an agency or being an M&A advisor, what have you noticed are the fast tracks to that level 5 without coming across, as caustic or intrusive? Like, how do you do that authentically?
It's actually really simple. You give them the gift of going second, meaning you share your stuff first, right? And the crazy part is it's easy enough to do, because you'll know right away. You can say, hey, Kasim, would it be okay with you if I shared some personal information? Because I think that you could be a significantly better advisor in the next few minutes if I shared everything with you so that you're not shooting in the dark or have assumptions.
Dude, I love the way you just framed that too. It's like I'm doing this because, and the advice you're gonna give for me is gonna be amplified in direct proportion. Yeah. So if you don't mind me saying, because I wanted to be prepared for this interview, so I just went to school on you as much as I could. I love the way you write. It's succinct, but not caustically so. Like there's still some poetry to it. I'm going to read one post for my listeners. This is the most recent one I found and also one of my favorites. In June, I turned 45. If you're under 29, don't make the same mistakes I did. Decades of mistakes taught me everything my younger self was too stubborn to learn. Here are the 5 things I'd say to my 25-year-old self. 1, life lessons in life will be repeated until they are learned. Like just that one takes some, you're like, wow, yes. And a lot of us are doing it to ourselves and watching our friends do it to themselves, where you're beating your head against a wall because you haven't learned the thing you need to learn. Life doesn't move you to the next level until you've mastered the current one. 2, people only see the decisions you make, not the choices you have. And I wanted to ask you about 2. Can I pause here and ask you to explain what that means?
Yeah, of course. So a lot of people, and you've gone through this process, your company was acquired by a company that was backed by SoftBank. Like you've done this process, right? Most people have this aspirational dream of selling their business. And I want to use that as a frame to explain this.
Mm-hmm.
And people say, oh, you've had a chance to sell, this 5 companies, one that was public. They're like, well, I want to sell my business. Go, it's not about the exit, it's about the options, right? And the reason we were able to, so one of our business that we sold, it was the largest transaction between 2 real estate companies in the history of the United States.
Wow. Was
Right?
that real?
Yeah, no, it was before real, it was TELUS.
Okay.
And the crazy part about that is it was a private deal. The NDA around it, I think, covers me and like the rest of my lineage. And and the crazy part about that is the reason we were able to command the valuation that we did was when the rest of the industry was not, was because we had so many options. And I'll
Right.
tell you exactly what happened. So I was a banker at Goldman Sachs, and one of my the managing partners told me some version of this. I can't remember the quote. He said, "Our job is to walk into a client and not sell them on an opportunity, but sell them on their options." And I was like, okay, that's really interesting. What does that mean? So when I started to run our TELUS, which is our real estate business, every summer I took TELUS to market in a soft way. I soft shopped the business. And what happened was, so essentially I would say, hey, here's our business. We're making $100 million this year. What would you pay for it? Right. And I soft shopped it because I have investment banking background. I just soft shopped the business.
And there's no fear of that hurting valuation, like the word getting out that, y'all are 1 foot in, 1 foot out?
No, so so how I framed it was, hey, we're thinking about a recap and we have a couple of people that are interested in this. I thought,
Brilliant.
yeah, I thought I wanted to make sure that, I would do the right thing for our shareholders. Would you be guys interested in being good partners? And so I took it to, 3 different, I took it an independent, I took it to private equity, and I took it to strategic. So I took it to 3 different types of buyers. And then the first summer, the conversation happened where I said, well, I'll make up some numbers. Hey, we would pay you $100 million for this. I'm like, great. What would make me 200? It's like, well, to make 200, you would need to have A, B, C, D, and E. I'm like, thank you so much. I take the A, B, C, D, and E and I hand it to my COO. This is our plan for next year. Next year, I come back to the same 2 people and I say, you said I should do A, B, C, D, and E, and that would be 200. Yeah, you're at 200. Well, what would it take for me to get 400? Well, it would be A, B, C, D, and E. I'm like, thank you so much. I went back and I did that. I did that for 4 years, back to back to back. And then at the end of those 4 years, because we talked to 3 different types of potential buyers, I had 3 different options. So we could have not sold. We could have sold to an independent. We could have sold to a strategic. We could have sold to private equity. And now when I got our final set of offers, I literally said, hey, here's a counter. Here's all the offers we have. Y'all choose what you want to do. And they all bid against each other. It was not about the exit. It was about the options because he just had too many options to play with. Right. And so it was a very unstressful thing because of the 5 years of actually building options. And the reason I share that is to the exact quote, which is people only see the decision you make, not the choices you have. But the value of what you can bring as an entrepreneur to the table is manufacturing those options, manufacturing those choices that you have.
I think that's one of the biggest intellectual unlocks I've had this year is the words you just said. The value you bring as an entrepreneur is manufacturing options. You could spend a lot of time thinking about what you just said. And for everybody listening, I've been through exits on a much smaller scale than Sharran. I play in a way, way, way smaller sandbox. What you just talked about, shopping the business ahead of time and getting the potential buyers to guide you through what would you call it? It's like the value amplification of this entity. Dude, that is genius. So that's another question I have for you. And this gets a little, people are miracles, man. I think every human being is just an absolute blessing. It's like, the divine incarnate. And I know that. And so the questions that I ask sometimes I think fly in the face of it. But when you try to reverse engineer a person, one of the questions I have for somebody like you, because I've known some Goldman Sachs guys, and they're always the smartest people in the whole wide world, and forgive me, they always feel soulless to me. They live life by a spreadsheet, and you feel like a philosopher. Like, why are you different than them? And how did you get to where you got in terms of your thinking? Like, where does this come from? This sort of, because I feel like when I'm talking, like, I mean, I've written down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 frameworks. We've been talking for 23. You've given me 8 frameworks in 23 minutes, which is insane, right? We're averaging a framework every 4 minutes or something. How did you get, did you come out of the womb just like, I see the fabric of society, I see the matrix, and I'm going to play if this, then that with life? Or how did you get to where you got intellectually?
It's a good question. And dude, I have a lot to learn. The main reason I would say a lot of this is kudos to my parents. I was born in India. I grew up in a very average everything. It was a very average time, a very average family, very average household, very average, parents with jobs, very average schooling. I was a very average person. I know ADD, ADHD, all of that, but I had extraordinary parents. I have extraordinary parents. And my father, I'll tell you one thing that my father did. My father is the most hardworking person I know. He's in his late 70s right now. And every night we lived in a 1-bedroom apartment, and every night he would come home, we would finish dinner, and he would sit down on the dining room table. He would open up his leather journal, go to a new page, go to the top of the page, and he would write tomorrow's date. And he would write everything that he was going to do the next day in his fountain pen, like beautiful cursive. He would write everything that he was going to do the next day, and he gave himself 1 page of things to do the next day. And he would not come home until he finished all of those things.
What did he do?
He ran an media buying agency. He ran an advertising company. And so he bought traditional media, spots and TV, radio, all of that. And he called that process creating tomorrow today. And his thing, for the thing that he taught me, was like, hey, he would every single day he would say, I'm creating tomorrow today. And that's when he would go to bed. From the time I left home till today, every single night, I sit down. I do it on my phone now because I don't have a leather journal, but I write down everything that I'm going to do the next day. And until that list is done, I do not come home. Now, there's a framework question in here, which is, my dad had this amazing ability to name everything. Before, naming things was cool. Like, he would take every practice and he would name the practice. He'd be like, creating tomorrow today, right? And every time he would do, like, he has this other thing. My dad was originally trained as a professor of English literature. And he and my mom would not buy me any toys. Like, I would go to the store, and I was the only child. I'd be like, can I get that? Can I get that? Can I get this? Can I get candy? Can I get a game? Whatever. And they're like, no, 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 no. But whenever I asked for a book, they would let me buy the book. Any book. My mom would say, we have an unlimited budget for education. And they would always let me buy the book. So I would think that at the end of the day, no matter what, I would leave with something. That was my consolation downsell. That was my prize. I would leave. And whenever I was stressed, and my dad would always say, you should write that down. And his framework around that was, fear has no place on paper, right? And so, because a lot of times he's like, hey, you just swirl a bunch of things around. And he's like, if you write the truth on paper, fear has no place on paper. And my dad had this ability to just put frameworks to things that allowed you to remember these abstract concepts. And so every time I come across something, I'm like, okay, I'm not smart enough to remember everything. So if I can put an abstract concept around, if I can name it, then I can remember it better. So the 5 levels of relationships, I drew it out. I named it. I'm like, hey, people talk about the past. People talk about, the other relationships. People talk about ideas. People talk about execution. People talk about money. Well, the only reason I have that is because I put a structure around it and I named it. And so it's easier for me to remember, so I can actually package it and turn it back over to you in this process. So a lot of it, credit goes to my dad for kind of creating this frame-based thinking for me. That's just been like a super gift.
Do you mind me asking your dad's name?
My dad's name is Vatsa, Vatsa.
And does he live close to you?
He lives in India.
Okay. How often do you get to see him?
I don't see him often. They come every year to hang out with my children.
Yeah. How many kids do you have?
I have 2 kids. My son Neil's 14. My daughter Laura is 9.
This is one of the things I wanted to ask you about. It's hard to do both. It's hard to be an extraordinary success in business and then be a family man and really commit. And then I feel like from the outside looking in, and everybody has, different, right, public perception versus private perception, but it sure feels like you're doing that.
Well, Thank you. I think about the world differently, meaning why should you give yourself a choice?
Hmm.
You can only do one thing well. To have a great life, you have to do everything well. You just have to understand that is the baseline. People give themselves a pass saying that, oh, this season of my life, I'm focused on my health. Therefore, I don't care about my relationships. This season of my life, I'm going hard on my business. Therefore, my family is going to take a back seat. You're lying to yourself.
Yeah.
What is that? That makes no sense. You have to be good at everything. You just have to stop and agree that you have to be good at everything. If you're not good at everything, you're going to complain that some part of your life is broken. The reason for that is there's a great Jack Dorsey quote, and he says, founder of Twitter, and he's like, the way to win is to make every detail perfect and just reduce the number of details, right? So to do great things, we must do fewer things. And when you have fewer things, you can do those things very well. If you want to do a lot of things, that just means that you don't have the commitment and the conviction that one of those things is not going to work. So you want to like have the backup plans on all of it. But I don't do a lot. Like I work as much as I can, and it gives me a lot of professional satisfaction because work to me is a way to grow. It's a personal growth vehicle. I just get better doing what I do. I love my family because they love me, which is a good thing because I see a lot of myself in them, and I want to help them. But just my family. I fly. I'm a pilot, or learning to be at least. So I fly as much as I can. And outside of those four things, I write. I don't do anything else. So at any point in time, I'm either working with with my family, flying, or writing.
Hmm.
So now I'm able to do those things well. And people say things like, oh, it's not about work-life balance. It's about work-life integration. Like, good job, word soup. What does that even mean? But
Yeah.
there's no behavioral context to that. And so to me, it is like, I have to do everything, and I have to do everything well. I just have to limit the number of everythings. And if I can limit the number of everythings, I can say I'm going to be an A plus in all of these in my life. And if I can't, if one of those things are going to get a B plus or a B minus, that means I probably should drop that. It shouldn't be in my life right now.
How do you choose? I know that's such an absurd, it's almost a childish question, isn't it? But it's like, especially a guy like you, there's no shortage of opportunity. I mean, like, I'm sure, and everything's exciting, especially when you can see the lanes and you can connect the dots. How do you keep yourself that disciplined? And how do you pick, this is the one thing I'm going to go pursue?
Great question. I think we all have a lot of opportunities. We just are not open to them.
Hmm.
And what I mean by that is, I'll give you a very simple example. This is good vulnerability for the audience. I spent a lot of time in financial services. I was a banker at Goldman Sachs and at Credit Suisse. I understand the financial markets very well. I consider myself a professional investor. I know trust and estate planning till the cows come home, probably better than most attorneys, because I've probably structured more deals than most of them have actually done in their lives.
Deal breakers, not deal makers. The attorneys are, yeah.
Right. However, call it the personal finance in my life is in a lot of ways a job of its own. And it is for most people, but we've had some modest success. So it's in a job of its own. Well, so far I was till like 3 years ago, I was doing a lot of it myself because I had the skills to do it. But I realized when I was kind of doing my annual audit with my coach that was getting like a B minus grade. So I said, well, that can't happen anymore. So I'm going to build a family office. So I built a family office over the last 18, 24 months. And now I have one family office director who I play point with, and I only talk to one person. And I've just outsourced success. And a lot of times people don't want to outsource success. And so I'm just like, hey, I'm not doing that well. I know that if someone else was waking up in the morning and thinking about my family and my family's finances and where all of that is going to go, that's a really positive thing. So I've completely outsourced success. And that's a luxury to have because I'm able to write a check to be able to do that. However, it allows for an grade result in the things that you are not actively focused on. So my active mind share is not focused on those things. And so I'm only focused on just a few opportunities. The key I will tell you is this. The key is two things. One, to find a vehicle where you know that the more time you spend in it, that the more compounding returns you have. When you know that, you want to spend more time in it. The second is, there's a great Naval Ravikant quote when he says, if it seems like play to you, but looks like work to others, then you've hit the nail on the head. Seems like play to you and looks like work to others.
Dude, I wasn't going to say this. I just wrote this. You can see it in my little, I don't know if you can see Ravikant. As you were talking, I wrote down, I actually wrote down Kamal, but I was like, because the way that you talk and that you speak, I'm like, man, you remind me of those guys.
Dude, they are the goats, man. They're the
Yeah. Have you read Kamal's, the book Rebirth?
No.
Oh, it's extraordinary. He's an interesting, I mean, Naval gets all the credit because he's the more visible, but Kamal too, he wrote a book called Love Yourself Like Your Life Expect. Depends on it. And it's been life-saving for I think he's got 30,000 five-star reviews on Goodreads or something. And yeah, and he's I mean, he was a soldier, he's a poet, he's a writer, and then he's a really brilliant investor and a developer and an entrepreneur. I love that you brought them up because as you were talking about it, I just feel like again, it's like that, it's that both, it's that Renaissance mind. I want to go back, if you don't mind, Sharran, you said to find a vehicle, the more time you spend in it, the more, what was the latter half of that?
The more compounding there is.
The more compounding. Thank you.
So it can be compounding of money, compounding of relationships, compounding of enterprise value, compounding of what? Like a lot of times, why do people sell the business, right? They say the big choice when you have is like, you're like, hey, I have two options. I can either keep the business or sell the business. The
Mhm.
reason I'm probably going to sell it is because I don't believe that the more time I spend in it, I'm going to have extreme compounding. I'm going to have more. Like you're like, hey, I hit a $6 million top line. Next year, can I do 12? Next year, can I do
Yeah.
18? If you knew for sure and you had a path to that, you would stay and do it.
Yeah, there's no more doubles, so I need to, right.
Right. And so now you're like, hey, you're making the better choice for you, which is great. So if you're in a vehicle where you can see extreme compounding, that's really important. And so I'll give you a great example. After my stint with Real, we grew the business 400% in 2.5 years. It was roughly a $200 million valuation when I started. We got it to a $1.2 billion valuation in 2.5 years. It was great because got to do it in the public domain. So, there's sometimes you don't have proof because you can't tell the private domain story, but it's awesome to have the proof in the public domain story. And it was very lucrative, but I did not do it for the money. And it was just to say that, hey, I've done this before privately. I'm going to run the same playbook again publicly to see if I can do it again. And Alex and Layla have been good friends through this process. And I said to them, hey, I'm done. I tried retiring the first time. I think I can do retiring the second time better. And Alex literally told me, he goes, dude, you're going to be so bored. And he says, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I only care about one thing. I'm going to plan the next few years to buy the Anaheim Ducks. And he was like, I think you can buy the Ducks. And by the way, it's got nothing to do with the money because it's not about the capital. It's about him, the owner's willing to sell the Ducks. And I said, I'm going to get a coffee shop or something. I'm going to be a barista until he's ready to sell the Ducks. And Alex is like, dude, you're going to be so bored making lattes. You should come work with us. And I said, well, I don't know. And then I love Alex and Layla. And what I saw with them was we're very similar in our thinking process, but the ability to say, hey, the more time I put in it, the more compounding that I see, both in my personal growth and my relationship with them and the things that we can do together. And so that way you never second guess yourself and it's easy to cut off the other things that may be coming your way.
Yeah, I love that story. I love that you said, I think I can do retiring the second time better because it's like being an audience member to a movie and you sort of know how it's going to end, but it's still, that's the temptation when you do something, I mean, that's a Leviathan that you climb this really extraordinary mountain and then here you are again. So like now you're running acquisition.com, which is maybe one of the most talked about companies I think that exist, but it feels very different from the things that you've done. Like I look at it, to be honest with you, from the outside looking in, it feels like an incubator.
Sure.
Feels like you're all, kind of playing Peter Thiel a little bit with the Thiel fellows, but on a scrappier scale. Like, is that how you look at it? And is that like, what's your vision long term? Or are you allowed to say?
I'm happy to share it. There's a really great vision for acquisition.com, and the mission for acquisition.com is to make business education accessible to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
But the vision that we're building is a unique one, which is the Disney of business. And the main idea for the Disney of business is think about how Disney made up, like you are attracted to Disney because of Mickey, Minnie, Donald Duck, whoever, right? And you're attracted to them. You may go to a Disney park and you may only see Donald for 10 seconds, but you have the entire ecosystem that is around you. So creating a business vehicle which is brand first that can almost generate extremely CAC efficient or negative CAC based, inbound, and then use
Negative.
that to monetize everything else is a really powerful thing. So for conceptually speaking, for us for now, we have negative CAC, and it's because it's brand first. And so the goal is to say, hey, how can we build 4 integrated brands, which is Alex, Layla, Sharran, acquisition.com. How can we build 4 integrated brands for now, and then build all the other businesses around it so that the brand impact can have negative CAC and then flow to all those businesses. So what is going to happen? And at the end of all of this sits the cherry on top of it all, which is the Anaheim Ducks, because the Anaheim Ducks are the only team that was named after a Disney character. Yeah. And I'll tell you the 10-second story behind the Ducks. So about 10 plus years ago, the owner of the Ducks, I had dinner with the owner of the Ducks as a mentor, acquaintance mentor. And he said, after this long conversation, he's like, hey, hey kid, I think you may be the kind of guy that'd like to own the Ducks someday. And I'm like, I don't even know who Wayne Gretzky is. I've never skated in my life. I have no idea about any of this. And then as I thought about it, I thought about something that there has to be something bigger to owning the Ducks than just the Ducks. I wanted to find something that was, I'm not thinking about, people talk about this word legacy. I think legacy is very hard for me to imagine because I know the day I die, like, in 4 days, everyone's going to forget about me. And that's what's going to happen. But instead of thinking about legacy as a noun, can you think about legacy as a verb? Well, how do you make legacy a verb? Which is you have to create something cultural. So my big idea was, well, when you think about sports and you think about America's team, and you think about baseball, well, America's team in baseball is the Yankees. When you think about America's team and you think about football, America's team in football is the Cowboys. When you think about America's team in basketball, that's actually based on where you kind of lived. It's either the Lakers or the Bulls or the Celtics or the Knicks or whatever, but they still don't have it yet.
Your generation, like when you came up.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're in the Jordan world, you're
Right.
you're the Bulls. If you recently was the Lakers.
We're all people with integrity, or they understand it.
But if you think about hockey, there is no America's team. So my idea is, in the modern world, I already have, it's not about the money, but I already have the top influencers who've agreed to crowdfund the purchase of the Ducks, because then you put the brand behind the Ducks. And so, like, think about Alex and Leo's profile that says owner at Anaheim Ducks.
It's over. Yeah.
Right. So my entire idea is to make Anaheim Ducks America's team by crowdfunding it to the top 100.
We talked a little bit about what makes this a win, and you've given us an extraordinary number of frameworks. Do you want to transition a little bit to talking about like where people follow you, what you're doing next?
Sure. First off, all of you should follow Kasim, and that's what you should do first. But if you like, I'm on all the social media platforms, so I would look at that. But if you want to read, I write a newsletter called The Next Billion. So you should check that out. It's essentially, I'll tell you what happened over the last 20 years of being an operator. It was all about like learning how to do things on a day-to-day basis and then figuring it out and doing it and learning how to do things and figuring out and doing it, and never had the time to sit down and document the learnings in any way. And a lot of people, what they do is they will have the first exit or have the second exit or have something great happen, and then they'll stop and go to Hawaii and write a book about everything that they did. But that artifact is so static, if you will. And so I thought one of the big reasons of kind of taking on this, this opportunity to be partners with Alex and Layla and growacquisition.com is that I said, what if I live blogged this? What if I live documented this experience? And I don't think it is actually valuable documenting it the first time around. In fact, I don't even think it's valuable documenting the second time around. I actually feel it's going to be insanely valuable documenting the third time around, because now I can look back and say, this is what we did before. This is what I've seen happen in a different way. This is what we did in the public setting. This is what we did in the private setting. This is what we're doing right now. This is how actually we're interviewing people. This is how we're stopping growth to go do this thing. And I think most people don't see that. And so I'm spending a lot of my time just thinking about how I would document this so that if someone actually just spent the time reading the Substack, they'll get an MBA in how a business was built from the ground up live, as opposed to having to read it in a book in some chronological order in some way. So it's mynextbillion.com, 100% free. I don't have anything to sell anybody, but hopefully it's helpful to you.
Well, I mean, gosh, I can't imagine it not being. This has been one of the best conversations I've ever had, man. And it's so hard to say stuff like that and not come across as pandering. But it would have to be true, right? I mean, at some point in our life, we're going to have really extraordinary conversations. This is one of mine. Sharran gave us the 10-10 forever rule, the no scorecard rule, being consistently consistent. Everything in life I build is a framework. The 4 goods: people, intentions, rationale, contracts. Money is a symbol of seriousness. The 5 levels: past, people, ideas, execution, money. Give them the gift of going second. I loved that. That was brilliant. It's not about the exit. It's about the options. Creating tomorrow today. From your dad, Batsa. Fear has no place on paper, man. That one, gosh, that really hit me hard. To have a great life, you have to do everything well. And the way to do great things is you must do fewer things. And man, this was such value. You really spoke to the title of this podcast, The World's Greatest Minds. Y'all, if you're listening, go to mynextbillion.com, subscribe to the newsletter, follow Sharran. This was a real pleasure, man. Thank you so much for your time. You're so generous with your time and your wisdom. I really appreciate you.
Oh, man. Hey, thank you for pulling all of this out. And most importantly, I think people don't realize that the depth of the conversation comes from the humility of the person guiding it, not just sharing it. So kudos to you, man. Thank you for creating this environment where It's a place where you steered it in an amazing way where I was comfortable sharing and helping. So I appreciate you.
I appreciate you. If you're listening, you're in the right place, and we'll catch you next time on World's Greatest Minds. You've just heard another powerful episode on World's Greatest Minds. For links, resources, and full show notes from this episode, go to worldsgreatestminds.com, where you can also subscribe so you never miss another episode. Drop us a review because your feedback fuels the mission, and share this with somebody who's willing to buck the status quo. Most importantly, tell us who you think we should interview next. Nominate the people who you believe have the results, the track record, and the brilliance to truly qualify as one of the world's greatest minds. Join us weekly as we forge innovation in real time. This is World's Greatest Mind. The revolution of thought continues with you.